business. There is a time for everything, and for everything there is a season. So man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind, make sure everything is fine, while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. I remember you say Liberation Day, and I ask, you sure is that you wanna say? Cause you sounded so good to believe. And deception is a powerful thing when you lose your rightful thinking. So we voted for the bling. But you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. Yellow, yellow all the way is what everybody say. Cell phone ring, man answering. Yellow, yellow, no hello. Teeth get yellow, house get yellow, bus get yellow, man get yellow, even green get yellow, and so says 11-4. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. Old school parables say you know what you have, but you don't know what you go get. So cherish what you have to diminish regret. But what on earth lasts forever? Not even things created by the great Jehovah. So the green grass ceased to grow to allow the yellow vibes to flow. But boy, one song I sing, one bell I ring. If we didn't know, we'd never know yellow would have treat us so. When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain.
And a good night to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and Pity Martinique. Once again, it is time for Talking Points. My name's Sheldon Scott. I'll be here with you until the 10 o'clock hour. It is now 3 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock on the Spice Isle of Grenada. I'll be taking you, as I said earlier, up until 10 o'clock. We are live on Talking Points on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. We're also live via the Talking Points page. That's talkingpointslive.com. I usually say Grenada. It's talkingpointslive.com. Yeah. Also live on 89.5 CRFM. Just making sure everything is working properly. We had a power outage a little earlier. So making sure everything is back in line. I realized my audio was a little hot a while ago. So just making sure everything is where it should be. And we'll get cracking shortly. So meanwhile, yeah, contact your friends, contact your family, contact your neighbors, even contact your enemies that might become your friends. Tell everyone Talking Points is on, eh? We have a very interesting program tonight, yeah? We're on all this, all kind of thing for the weekend. Yeah, we time to talk now. Nice.
When you trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. Busy governing, busy managing, busy politicking, busy neglecting, busy inflicting poverty and hunger throughout Grenada. 1,000 Frenchmen can never be wrong, but you hold your yellow conviction strong, strong, strong. So why not send them advisors home? They're sucking money like water in foam. And rehire the Imanis, less stress on the economy. You and Manchester hold up the country. You don't see us down by the bureau when you send SSU to between. Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. So we've heard about your internal division, but some can't digest that one. Remember the man say he's an asset to the party? And will we vote you without him? You left him with Glenn alone. Maybe they cloned. And however, I foresee a pretensive unity that will mislead a lot just before the next ballot. But you guys will have to come real good, cause it's a long time Grenada ain't eat a food. You think politician good? Trick us with campaign promises, we won't stay at ease. That's the way it is. We've waited in vain, hoping you'll ease the strain, but you now refrain, you now refrain. You remember Remember in the Bible, God had a plan for Jonah to restore Nineveh. But who will restore Grenada? Is it the same Jonah? Lots of doubt, so I'm running up my mouth. And I'm counting no chicken before the hatch. Politicians.
Yeah, so as I said, we're just letting the live bill. Remember to contact your friends, contact your family. And if you're not already subscribed to, especially the YouTube page, you've got to subscribe. Subscribe and click the notification button so that you would know when we're on. Yeah, you won't have to wait for somebody to call you or tell you. Your phone will go off or your device will go off or you'll see a notification coming across saying that Talking Points is on. Let me say a special night to Martin and Miss V. I know that you're listening, Mommy George, Miss Noriega. Know all of you are locked in and listening. Saying a special good night to you all. Also those Linda, Imelda, Francois, Keisha, Ingrid, Jillian, seeing all of you on already. Let me see who else is there. Lisa and Marcus and Denise, Carolyn, all of you on over on the Facebook side. Folks, just drop a note. Let us know that you're in. And over on the YouTube side, I'm seeing Marilyn, Gemma, Caitlin, Beavis, Shajan, Stanley, Anne-Marie, let me see, Baby Daddy, good night to you, bruh. Yeah, Wilma, Denise, Anne, yeah, all of you in, Kathleen, Adrian, Cedro, Cedro or Cedro? You had to tell me how to pronounce your name properly, you know, bro. Yeah, so seeing all of you on over on the YouTube, just remember, yeah, you got to subscribe, you got to like, you got to share. So remember, you've also got to share because as I said, we have a lot to say tonight. They had their say for the last few days. Yeah, man, they went up to the mountain top and back down. They went into the valleys and over in the ocean. We have the opportunity to talk now. All right? So spread the word. Nice. And a special good night to all the men and women of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Jakim, good night. Yeah, men and women of the Royal Grenada Police Force, hope that you all had a wonderful weekend. Know you're out there working hard as usual. And I realize, yeah, they're listening, because you all know what? They actually contacted the police now in relation to the issues that we have been raising here. That is the issue of the upgrade and so on, and the pay issues and so. Yeah, they actually contacted the police in relation to that too. And not only them, but we're hearing now that the Public Workers Union have not announced it officially, that there's an offer on table to the Public Workers Union and other associated unions like TAU and so, who have workers that work within the public sector. So there is now an offer on table to them. So you see, they're listening. So we had to say a thing because they're listening, ain't it? Antonito. Good night, bruh. In fact, let me talk like how we does talk. Okay? Good night, my brother.
Serious business. There is a time for everything. And for everything, there is a season.
So, folks, we had the Parliament sitting last week. And you all saw the final presentations, especially from the New National Party side, on last week Friday. You had the Honorable Emlyn Pear and you had the Honorable Peter David. And I need to give a serious table knock to both of them. They did an absolutely wonderful job. Yes, the rest of the team did an excellent job before. And you know Doc is in a class by himself, right? But they did an excellent job on Friday and they need to be commended. The presentations, both by the Honorable Emlyn Pear and the Honorable Peter David, thought-provoking. They delved into the issues at hand. They gave a perspective of what they knew from being the minister to what exists. Because, for instance, talking about things like doing a land bank for young farmers. And Honorable Peter David was able to point out that, hey, you're talking about a land bank for young farmers and so. And he told them that they had X amount of acres already set aside for that project and so. And you were in the process of rolling out that project. But you see, it seems as though some people on the other side, on the government side, want you to forget that you had COVID. For nearly 3 years now, you had COVID affecting Grenada, the Caribbean, and the rest of the world. So the things you wanted to roll out, you were not able to roll out in the way that you wanted to roll it out because you had COVID-19. So you couldn't call groups of people together because, remember, now it sounds as nothing, you call groups of people together and so on. But you could not call groups of people together and put things together in the way that you needed to put it together over the past couple of years. So when you hear them talking about certain things now, you have to be able to trace it back and say, well, this is nothing new. This is something that was there already. And now the circumstances allow for implementation. And even with all of that, you still had an 85% implementation rate, right? So even with all of that, you had an 85% implementation rate as a government. So now you have a situation where you do not have the situation, health-wise and otherwise, that will hold back the implementations of various projects and so on. It was also interesting, and I think I want to get into that one right now. Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell asked several questions of the government of Grenada, as each and every opposition has the opportunity to do. They can ask questions of the government. It is not something that's new. Let me just move my chair out of the way here. Yeah, it's not something that's new. It's not something that is the first time it's being done. In fact, I can tell you, in the last New National Party time we were in opposition, several questions were posed by the New National Party at that time. I remember one of them was in relation to the issue of advisors. Who were the advisors and their salaries and so on. And there were other questions that were posed over the 4.5 years of the NDC administration then. With the New National Party being in office for the 9 years previous, you had various questions being asked of the NNP from time to time. One of those questions I remember being asked, I think it was while I was in Parliament still, was in relation to the traveling that members of the New National Party government did. So the government on a whole, not just people who were part of the party, but government. Yeah? So the questions were asked where they went, how much was spent for it, and who paid for it. That was asked, that was answered. And you got a pretty specific listing. That said, person A, Minister Oliver Joseph, traveled to the IDB. The cost of the ticket is X amount, paid for by the IDB, and that sort of thing. Because there was a standing position of the New National Party administration that when it came to traveling, when it came to leaving the state of Grenada as ministers, one, and I can tell you this because you all know, I would know. Other people could tell you they might think so. I could tell you that I know for a fact. Right. Number one, you were not allowed to travel unless it was absolutely necessary as a government minister. Right? The reason being, if you were traveling, there had to be some sort of significant benefit to the state of Grenada. So if you're traveling to a forum, there must be the opportunity, at least the opportunity at the meeting itself or immediately after, for Grenada to apply for some sort of funding for a project here in Grenada. So you're not going to just send a minister to something and they come back and say, well, it was nice. We sit down and we eat nice food and they gave us a tour of the country. Well, some of these things that you might think they get tour, most of the times you go to these things, you go straight to a hotel. The next morning you're into the conference, you're at the conference for the entire day. By the time you come out, sometime it's dark night, and then you're back into a hotel again. So it's not like you doesn't really get to see anywhere. But it's not a situation under the NNP that ministers were allowed to just go willy-nilly to all kind of conferences and so. If there was not some sort of financial benefit to the state of Grenada, there had to be some sort of technical assistance or technical know-how. The individual needed to gain some knowledge that would help them in the implementation in the ministry in which they were. So you gain some kind of technical know-how. So you were able to latch on to some people who were experts in a particular area so that you could always call or message or email and get information from that individual to help you with a particular area if you got to an area that you needed that sort of assistance. So traveling meant that you brought something back to Grenada. If you didn't bring back either the ability to apply for funding, right? Or you didn't come back and you had, for certain, you had already made the arrangement and you were getting funding on behalf of Grenada. You also had the ability to ask for some sort of assistance, technical wise, whether it's an engineer, a scientist, or whatever it is, or economist, whatever, that they would provide assistance to Grenada at that level. Now, it was also decided at the cabinet level who would go where and so. So you discuss it and you say, well, Minister So is the best person, and this is under their portfolio, that's the best person to attend. But if that minister is unavailable, this other minister, they have a degree in engineering or whatever, that minister might be the best minister, and they've held that portfolio before in the past, that might be the best person to attend, and so on. So it was not a case where anybody asks you to go, you just jump a plane and go. It was not a case of that. And it has never been a case of that under the New National Party. If they want to dig up things, go and dig up and see how much times I traveled when I was in the government. And see how much times the government of Grenada had to pay for me. Once. And they can't deny that once. They could go and check the files. Any other time I travel was other arrangements, but once. But now, within 6 months, and that's one of the questions that Dr. Mitchell asked. He asked about how much was spent in relation to traveling. So ministers leaving the state of Grenada and going different places, and not just ministers. Sometimes it might be advisors, sometimes it might be other people within the ministry, and we even hear our boyfriends too. So whatever it is, they travel and they go and they think $500,000, in other words, $500,000 in 6 months has been spent on travel. I could assure you, and this is money we're speaking about that's coming out of the consolidated fund. Because part of the question, and let me see if I could pull the question up for, well, you won't be able to see it, but I'd be able to see it here, and I'm always willing to put it up on the page afterwards so you all can have a look at it, because there were several questions there. We'll get back to question number 1 in a while. But when it came to the issue of traveling and folks traveling and so, let me see where that one is here. Because there were several questions, and as I said, I'll come to some of the other questions in a little while. Right? What is the cost? Question number 7. What is the cost to the state of Grenada? And listen carefully. Tonight we're doing some serious listening. The first hour we're dealing with this. We have something big to deal with for the second hour. Question number 7 that was posed by the former Prime Minister, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, is what is the cost to the state of Grenada for travel, the purpose of the same, and the name of each member of the travel delegation and their associated position, role, or responsibility since June 23rd, 2022. Right? That is the question that was posed. The answer that was given is simple. The answer that was given, 2 lines on a international travel expenses, which comprise of airfare, accommodation, meals, subsistence, and sundry expenses, and fixed allowance for a period July to November 2022, $509,578.48. Now, does that answer the question that Dr. Mitchell asked? Why are they hiding who went where? Why are they hiding the cost of each trip? When we gave the information back in 2013 or 2014, I think the question was posed by then Senator Burke in relation to travel and so on. It was very detailed. In fact, if I remember correctly, even people that left here and went to Carriacou, the cost of them going to Carriacou and all was included. Yeah, and that's within the state of Grenada. but that was included as well because it formed part of the travel budget. So international travel expenses, which comprise of airfare, accommodation, meals, subsistence, and sundry expenses, and they just gave the figure. They did not give the purpose of the travel. That was not given. And let me make it clear, that was not given to the public. That was not given to Dr. Mitchell. The purpose of the travel. The name of the people who travel. Like they're afraid to say who went where. Because it seems as though right now is joyride, joyride, and joyride. Right? So the name of each member of each delegation is what was asked for. That was not given. Their associated position, role, or responsibility. Because if somebody is going on a trip, they have to have a role and a responsibility why they are going. So a person can't just be going because it have a trip going so, and government of Grenada is paying, and you're going on the trip. The position of the former administration was that you only travel when absolutely necessary. And in most instances, not in every instance, in most instances, it had to be a case where the government of Grenada had something to gain from you traveling. You're not just traveling to say Grenada was represented or Grenada, and this is the nonsense they keep putting out. Oh, Minister so-and-so was at a high-level meeting in wherever. What comes out of that meeting? What did Grenada gain from that meeting? You don't have post-cabinet press briefings for ministers to come and speak to you. You have individuals in the media that have stated clearly they have been trying to contact. Unfortunately, they have not been able to get through to her. The present press secretary, and we'll come to her in a while, the present press secretary, to ask the question simply, who went on this trip and what were the benefits that Grenada got from a trip? No answer. Now, a question has been posed in the parliament by the leader of His Majesty's opposition, asking who were the people on the various trips, what were their roles, and how much was spent. You get a total figure? Nothing else. That is what has been given. Question number 8 that was posed in the parliament, and I'm reading these out because this came to the very end of the sitting. So you had 2 whole days of constant sitting and so on, and many people were not paying attention to the last few minutes. And this came up in the last 15 minutes or so. So many people don't know that this came through Parliament. In fact, when I see some media people reporting on different aspects of these questions, all of a sudden, people attacking them and saying, oh, people leaking information to them. This ain't no private information. This is damn public information. And it has to be given to the people of Grenada. Yeah? Or they like to give information out? Give these information out. Put the names of the people who went on these travel delegations and the source of funding, because I am seeing through an article I saw in one of the weekly, I don't want to call them newspapers, but publications. I'm already seeing an attempt to cover up in relation to travel. I ain't going to point you to it because me want you go in there. But I'm already seeing an attempt to cover up when it comes to the issue of travel, because they know that they will have to provide the rest of information that was requested in question number 7. In question number 8, it says, was there a change in the travel policy established by the previous government? And if so, can the Minister of Finance state what these new rules are? The response: there was no change in the travel policy established by the previous government, except that it was strengthened at the first cabinet meeting on 11th of July to include reporting on a quarterly basis to a cabinet-appointed committee. The travel requests no longer come to cabinet, but are administered through an online portal where approval is granted at various levels. So now you have a committee that has been put together, appointed by cabinet, that's going to review who is traveling on behalf of the government of Grenada. It doesn't say who comprises that cabinet-appointed committee. It doesn't say, if you're saying that you have a cabinet-appointed committee, name the people. Name the people. Say we appointed a committee on this date that's dealing with all issues in relation to travel, and these are the people that have been appointed. But no, it doesn't say that. It just ends the question right there. Right? Question number 9. Who were the person or persons responsible for vetting applicants and assigning the same to statutory boards? Remember, we had the Prime Minister saying that's how they're going to form this committee, and they had the online portal where I think was over 1,000 people applied to sit on statutory bodies and so on. And the question is being asked, who were the people that comprised the committee to look at these applicants and to select people to sit on committees? Because you basically just have the NDC executive on the boards. Now, if they want to say that you had people from the NNP executive on the boards, we were not the ones that came to the Grenadian people and said that we're going to do things differently. We were not the people that came and said that they would not appoint people who are political onto these boards and so on, because you're seeing ex-ministers on 2 and 3 boards. You're seeing different people on the executive of the NNP on this board and that board and the other thing from the NDC, on this board and that board and the other board and that kind of thing. That is what you're seeing. All right. So, they said here, the expressions of interest committee chaired by the Prime Minister and comprising advisors, transition leads, and the ministers are responsible for vetting the applicants, and the minister in cabinet for the appointment to the statutory boards. So the Prime Minister and the minister, they are 2 of the people. Whichever minister is in charge of that board, they're in charge. But what is so hard in naming who the advisors and the other people that selecting people for boards are? And is it a case that in 1 or 2 instances, one of the advisors or the transition leads end up on a board too? Let us know if they are the ones that select themselves to go on a board. Right? But they just leave it at that. They're not answering the questions because the people who said that they're going to be open and transparent seem to have a problem with that. And it's going to go, I mean, when we look at another issue here, there is the issue of the advisors. Now, the question, and listen carefully again, as I said, we're listening tonight. So listen carefully to the question that was asked and tell me if what you're hearing is the answer, is a correct answer to that question or a partial answer. Question number 1, the first question that was posed. Who are the advisors and or transition leads and associated support staff for each ministry and department in the public sector hired from June 23rd, 2022? And it says here, the advisors and or transition leads and associated support staff for each ministry and department in the public sector hired from June 23rd, 2022 are as follows. 1. Deborah St. Bernard. 2. Ann Peters. 3. Willan Thompson. 4. Faye Thompson. 5. Franca Alexis Bernardine. 6. Gemma Bain Thomas. 7. Hugh Thomas. 8. Larry Barry. 9. Orlando Romaine. 10. Sally Ann Logie. 11. Andrea St. Bernard. 12. Joyce Thomas Peters. 13. Stephen Fletcher. 14. Patrick Simmons. 15. Richard Duncan. So those are the names of the people who have been hired as advisors and transition leads. That's the list. It goes on. Question number 2. What are the ages, salaries, allowances, other forms of compensation or benefits and responsibilities associated with each advisor and or transition lead and associated support staff for each ministry and department in the public sector hired from June 23rd, 2022? That's a very specific question. Again, it asks the ages of each individual, the salaries of each individual, the allowances of each individual, and other forms of compensation, because you may have your set salary and they may have allowances. They may have, for instance, transportation allowance. And the transportation allowance, we see the ministers have $2,600 is the total of their transportation allowance. So we don't know if the advisors and transition leads also are getting that sort of benefit, as they're getting travel allowances, or they're getting allowances for communications, like they're being provided with government phones and tablets and so on. We're not sure if that is also taking place. All right? So the question has been asked. The answer that has been given, after all that has been asked for there, the answer that has been given, the ages range from 45 to 65 years. So they totally ignore giving the ages of each of the individuals that's there. So they just say the ages range from 45 to 65 years. The same people who was talking about a set of retired people coming back in the service and these people shouldn't be there and so on. The advisors that they have hired are 45 to 65 years old. They have said it. But they refuse to give the ages individually of each person as requested. Okay. The monthly fees associated with each advisor and or transition lead for each ministry and department in the public sector hired from the 23rd of June 2022 are $5,000 per month for each transition lead. They didn't talk about the advisors. They said for each transition lead is $5,000 for a 3-month period of July to September, leading to the payment of total fees in the amount of $250,000, basically $225,000. So $250,000, round it off, right? For the transition leads. They didn't talk about the advisors and them there. They didn't say how much the advisors getting. Because Lil Bird's speaking about people getting salary as much as $8,000, $9,000, and $10,000. That's what I am hearing. Yeah? That people are getting salaries as high as $8,000, $9,000, and $10,000. And I need to say here, it is an offense to lie to Parliament. Let me say that again. For the people that have to produce these documents, the hard-working civil servants who have to prepare these documents to give to the politicians to come into Parliament, please note, it is an offense. Yeah, it is an offense. I could find out the exact one and all that information, but it is an offense to provide false information to Parliament. Because while the question was asked about all the people basically that have been hired in the public service, you notice that they've left out the press secretary, they have left out the attaché to the prime minister, or whatever name they carry these days, right? The assistant to the prime minister. Those two individuals' names are not there. Senator, the Honorable Quince Britton name is not there. We see him being paraded on platforms as he's the man in cess and he working in cess and so on. Hey, not me. I say the man working in cess. Cess is a thing that they have there. So the man working in cess. Right? So you're seeing this thing about Senator Quince Britton working there, yet his name is not on that list. So it's either that somebody make a mistake or somebody is being willfully malicious to leave out the information that should be given, which has been requested. Because me ain't seen his name, I ain't seen the press secretary name, and give Jackie Jacket and Jane Shiblows. When the Tillman Thomas administration had to give this information, you had everybody from the advisors right down to the drivers and secretaries that were hired, and you had the salaries. Yeah? When that was requested from the Tillman Thomas administration, you had everybody from advisor down to secretaries that were hired, down to drivers that were hired, and you saw next to it the salaries that these people were being paid. But for some reason, the Deacon Mitchell administration is afraid to put out that information. They ain't putting it out. And excuse the throat, you know the cold going around these days. Right? The Deacon Mitchell administration seems to be afraid to tell you. Yeah, They're afraid to tell you who they hire and how much they paying them. Why they afraid? And they talk about transparency, and them is the most transparent set of people it's supposed to have in Grenada right now. They ain't supposed to be afraid to tell you anything. But it seems as though there's some sort of fear to talk to the Grenadian people and tell them. Another question was asked. Are the salaries, allowances, this question number 3, are the salaries, allowances, and other forms of compensation or benefits associated with the advisors and or transition leads? This is specific. It doesn't say transition leads alone. Advisors and or transition leads and associated staff hired in the public sector from June 23rd, 2022, sourced from government revenues as collected from the people of Grenada or other sources. The answer has been the monthly fees paid to the advisors and or transition leads. So when it comes to this question, they know it have advisors and it have transition leads. When it came to question number 2, they only know about transition leads. So the monthly fees paid to the advisors and transition leads and associated staff hired in the public sector from June 23rd, 2022 are sourced from government revenues. In other words, you and I paying, all of us, right? Question 4 goes more specifically. It asks, what is the specific source of funding for the salaries of each advisor and or transition lead and associated support staff for each ministry and department hired in the public sector from June 23rd. That includes the press secretary. That includes the prime minister's attaché. That includes Senator Quince Britton. None of whom are anywhere in this document and should be in the document. We want to know the specific source of funding for the salaries for each advisor and or transition lead and associated support staff for each ministry and or department hired in the public sector from June 2022 are from the Technical Assistance Fund project under the Ministry of Finance. Yeah? So I want you to listen to that carefully. It says, a source, they are from the technical, make a note of that word, the Technical Assistance Fund. We're going to come back to the Technical Assistance Fund later in this program, under the Ministry of Finance. Question 5, asks, who is the supervisor or supervisors of each advisor and or transition lead and associated support staff for each ministry and department hired from June 23rd, 2022. It says here, each transition lead reported to the minister in the ministry to which he was assigned. Well, it should be he or she was assigned. Right? And there's another question here. Very interesting one. Well, you want to take a break? Let me see what some of you all been saying there, because I've been reading out the document so much that I kind of have not been getting. Yeah. All right. Nice. Yeah. Antonito, I'm not going into that one tonight. Yeah. All right. Matthew, good night to you from cold Brooklyn. Good night to you, bro. Let me get some of the comments over on Facebook here. All right. Nice. Yeah, trying to pick up all the comments that I can as much as possible. All right, so let me just get some of them here. Give me 1 second as I just shift here.
This is not politics. Please don't forget. I'm just practicing to be a poet. Not qualified as yet, but have no fear. I'm gonna get there. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectation. Neither are you in to live up to mine. I don't owe no one, no obligation. No one owes me none, so everything is fine, fine. I say I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. I am that I am, I am, I am, I am. is business. There is a time for everything, and for everything there is a season. So man and man must reason. So I think it's prime time that we address some more issues. Simple information I will use. No rocket science to get you confused. So relax your mind. Make sure everything is fine while I take you down a poetic line. Trick us with campaign promises.
So just picking up some more information there. And you know me, when I start talking, it does get the additional information. And what I'm seeing here,
I remember you say Liberation Day.
I'm seeing a contract for Mr. Ian Thomas as an advisor to the ministry, but all how I look and I peep and I can't see his name on the list too. So you're telling me that an incomplete list was given to the Parliament of Grenada because Mr. Ian Thomas, and I assume they mean Mr. Ian Django Thomas, as an advisor in the Ministry of Youth. So in other words, it seems as though, if I am correct right now, that we have two advisors in the Ministry of Youth. You mean to say the minister is so incompetent, he don't have one advisor, he has two advisors in the ministry? Because from what I know, and what is being said there, Mr. Patrick Simmons is supposed to be an advisor to the Minister of Youth. As far as I know, is it a case that Mr. Patrick Simmons is no longer an advisor to the Minister of Youth and now you have Mr. Ian Django Thomas? Or is it a case where you have both Mr. Ian Django Thomas and Mr. Ian Django Thomas is being paid just $4,900 and something dollars. He's being paid $54,000 a year, $4,944 per annum in traveling allowance with a 50% duty-free concession on the purchase of a vehicle. Right? He has 25 working days leave. He has the contract for 2 years. Yeah? That's the contract for Mr. Ian Django Thomas. Tell me a lie. Take me to court. I live frequently. All you know where to find me. All you just follow my vehicle all over the place. All you know where to find me. Yeah? Take me to court. Right? So there is a second advisor, it seems, in the Ministry of Youth. Huh? Am I wrong? Or is it a case that you have both Mr. Ian Django Thomas and Mr. Patrick Simmons, two people in the Ministry of Youth as advisors? Well, what kind of madness is that? But that is what we're seeing. Folks, the phone lines are open. You could call. And as I said, I'm dealing with this issue are the questions that were put in Parliament. And I'm dealing with it because, again, it came down to the very end of the sitting. And the questions, the answers were only given to Dr. Mitchell that same afternoon. So it was not a situation, and he didn't put it in a way that they had to read it out. They just had to present the questions to him. Right? So they gave it to him a little on the afternoon, about 2 or 3 hours before the end of the sitting there. The same afternoon of the sitting on Friday is when he got the answers. And I could see why. Because they're hiding from some of the stuff here. No wonder they want to say they're putting out documents and all kind of thing. No wonder they want to go down that road. But we come in, we go talk about documents just now. If they want to hear about documents, sign in. We go talk about documents just now. But they think we're going afraid? They think I wouldn't speak about it? No, we have to talk about documents. We're going to have a discussion about that particular area of concern. Yeah? We're going to do that shortly. All right, but remember the phone numbers. If you're local, it's 440-7377. And if you're outside of Grenada, it's 347-329-3101. So let me go over that again. For those of you in Canada, those of you in the United States, BVI, them kind of country there? Yes, right. BVI, remember it's our country called BVI, yeah? Right. 347-329-3101. And for those of you locally, right here in Grenada, you can call us on 440-7377. Yeah, we know the nights making coal and all kind of thing these days. Yeah, we know that. Mavis and Tessa, good night to both of you. I hope you all having a wonderful, wonderful night. You know? Don't study them. Yeah, what they're trying to do is mass distraction right now because they know they eventually will have to fulfill their duty, their legal obligation to to provide the leader of His Majesty's opposition with the full accounting of what he has asked for here. They can't continue to duck it. They have to present it. Yeah? So meanwhile, they are trying all sorts of things to distract people. Go ahead. Distract people. Yeah, that's what they're trying. But you all are too intelligent to allow them to distract you. You understand what they are trying to do. You know very well the strategy that they are trying to employ. And as such, you will not allow yourself to be distracted. Yeah? That is the sort of thing that they are accustomed doing. Yeah? So we know we talk about police and thing, and you realize they start to think for police. Let me play a local song for the police. Again, a piece of information again there. So let me, Mr. Django, 5 grand, boy. 50% duty-free concession. Eh? And here's what. You know that one of the people who name I called a while ago as receiving $5,000 a month as a transition lead / advisor say that's how they never get a cent. Yeah. They are claiming that they ain't get no money. So who get their money? Because the government of Grenada is saying that that individual was paid. Because the government of Grenada has sent that individual's name collectively with the others as a person who was receiving a $5,000 a month over a 3-month period and may have transitioned into being an advisor right now. Right? Because that is the impression that we're getting for the documentation. Yeah? Let me see. So I want to know what really is taking place. Because again, to you civil servants, my good brothers and sisters in the civil service, don't go protecting people and don't protect yourself. It is illegal to provide false information to the Parliament of Grenada. Let me say it again. It is illegal to provide false information to the Parliament of Grenada. All right? You need to ensure that when you're doing this, you do it properly. And if anybody senior to you comes to you and say to change what you know is the right thing, take a stand. Because the person that go end up in legal trouble is you. So make sure that proper information is presented, because whoever compiled this bit of information that was presented to Parliament with the omissions that are there. There's no Ian Django Thomas. There is no press secretary. For the life of me, I could never remember this young lady's name. For she not out there. There is no attaché to the Prime Minister. That individual's name, as far as I know, is not there. And there's no Senator Queen's Britain. These 4 people, why are you hiding them? How much money they're being paid and what are their duties? Because we know the press secretary ain't carrying out she own. Let me see. Let me check. Unless they remove me from the mailing list of GIS. And if they remove me from the GIS mailing list, yeah, we're going to talk about it. But up to now, let me see. There's no invite there. There's no invitation for a post-cabinet press briefing to take place tomorrow. Ministers travel $500,000. $500,000. They have traveled. How much they come back with? Let me give you a story. You all remember a gentleman by the name of Dr. Patrick Antoine? I could remember Dr. Patrick Antoine back in 2013, not too long after the new National Party came back into office, traveled to a meeting with an agency overseas. It was not funded by the government of Grenada. And Dr. Patrick Antoine was able to secure 20 million euros for you, the people of Grenada. Yeah? And he ain't go in Egypt and come back and hiding. He ain't go in some other place and come back and then you can't hear that this is what Grenada got from that. We had press conference, spoke about that, all different things. So the information came out. But these individuals have spent $500,000 tripsing all over the place. And all they're saying is Minister so-and-so has attended a high-level meeting. What high-level meeting? You may be smoking weed over there. That's the only high it high. Minister so-and-so has gone to a high-level meeting and they come back, and at the end of the day, you can't hear that Grenada get $5 million for a youth program, or Grenada get a $15 million for a climate change program, or that Grenada even get a $40 million to fix roads in an area. Nothing. And they're not even having a press conference where you could ask, because they're coming back with nothing. So they can't tell you nothing because they come back with nothing. And then they praise themselves like if there's the best thing since sliced bread. What have they done within that 6-month period? $500,000. They like to talk about figures. And you know, they like to talk about figures. Let me talk figures now. Let me talk that. Let me speak about the fact. Next question. Let me get to this one. I'll have to go back a bit for it. Oh dear, I think I skipped. Let me just go back to that one. Right. The next question is 6. Question number 6. And call them. Tell them I'm speaking about it. Let the NDC supporters hear what I'm saying tonight. The most they could do is attack me personally. They cannot attack the facts. So I don't care if they're listening. In fact, if you come, we're glad to have you. All right? So here's the fact. Question number 6 that was posed by Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. What is the total cost to the taxpayers for the establishment of the Ministry of Mobilization and Implementation, and the names, responsibilities, salaries, benefits, and allowances of each staffer? Here's the response that they gave. You ask for the name of everybody that's working there. So you want to know who are the people that they've hired, people that were not in the public service before, that were brought into the public service to help form the Ministry of Mobilization and Implementation. That question is being asked. All right? You also want to know the names, because you're hearing Django getting benefits, 50% duty-free concession on a vehicle, $4,500 a month, $412 traveling allowance on a monthly basis. And that might have other things there too, you know. Yeah. So that should have been in the document that we got, and that is the way you should have all that information in the document, and Django them can't say a lie. It's true. Yeah? No, they like to call people name. I call in name tonight. Right. So the answer to the question that was asked there, the cost to establish the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation. Office infrastructure expenditure, right? $119,676.70. So that's because they had to build out an office to host that particular ministry. Because a ministry that didn't exist before, well, it existed, but as parts of other ministries, and they created, and we had to talk about the creation of that ministry because it ain't too legal, but that's another story for another time. They created another ministry. Furniture and equipment. And this one is interesting. Furniture and equipment, $199,479.07. So that's for the tables, the chairs, the computers, the printers, all of the stuff that was brought in for that office. So furniture and equipment, $199,479.07. That's the amount of money. Salaries and allowances thus far, $639,946.37. Yeah, we want 37 cents, right? Nice. Total cost thus far, and it should be to the point in time that this document was given, just shy of $1 million. $959,102.14 in total. So just shy of $1 million for the creation of that ministry. I have a question that I'd like Dr. Mitchell to ask. Under the law of Grenada, there's the Procurement Act. For the life of me right now, my mental capacity eludes me as to the year that we passed that particular Procurement Act. I think it may have been 2014 or 2015, at the very latest 2016, right? The Procurement Act. Under the Procurement Act, it says if government is doing any significant amount of purchasing, that they must put it out for bidding. So you can't decide that you're going and spend, as far as I'm seeing here, you can't decide that you're going and spend $199,479.07 on furniture and fittings for an office, and it doesn't go out for bid under the law of Grenada, the Procurement Act, right? You can't just decide, I have a friend who's selling office material and I'm going to buy it from them. You can't decide that, hey, I have a friend that have computers and things for sale, I'm just going to buy it from them. Once it comes up to a certain cost, and I can't remember the cost, I don't want to call one and it's lower or higher, but there's a particular cost. Under that, you don't need to go through procurement and put out for tender and that sort of thing. But once it goes over that amount, you're supposed to tender it. That is the law of Grenada. I can't remember seeing any tendering in relation to any equipment and so for that ministry. Was it put out a tender? Yeah? Was it put out a tender? Because I did not see, and I follow these things, I did not see any tender going out in relation to the furniture and so for that ministry. I know that the minister met recently over the past week or two, right? I know that the minister met within the last week or two with the furniture suppliers so that they could create the furniture for the schools, and round of applause. That's the reason the New National Party was building that furniture factory up in St. Patrick that all you have no intention of completing and thing. But anyway, that's another story. And I just got the information there. Once it's over $15,000, it has to be tendered out. Yeah? So, I would like Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, member of His Majesty's Privy Council, yeah? Leader of His Majesty's opposition, former Prime Minister, and most successful politician in the history of the Caribbean. I would like Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell to pose the question as to whether the outfitting of that office ever went up for tender, as is the law. And they can't say they don't know because it is the law. All you're headed by a lawyer. All you have different people, senior people in the ministries as permanent secretaries, etc., that know the law is that this is supposed to go through the Procurement Act. So don't play like all you don't know. All you know. Next thing we find out is some kind of friend thing. Next thing we find out is some kind of friend that get a deal to bring in some material. That get a deal to bring in the carpet and the chairs and all this kind of thing. We don't know. So we need to know, yeah, we need to know if this was ever sent out for procurement, for tendering, yeah, through the procurement bill, as it says, once it's over $15,000, except under special circumstances like cases of emergency and so, for instance, if you have a state of emergency in place in Grenada, then you can set aside certain aspects of the Procurement Act because it's an emergency. You need to get things, you need to get it now to save life and limb. That's one thing. But we are not in a state of emergency. So why, if it was not, because I didn't see it, maybe I need to change my glasses, I didn't see it. So if this was put out for bidding, I want to know when, where, and who won the bid. Yeah? Then I might be able to draw a line back to certain ministers and that kind of thing. All right? Night? Nice. Right. So, folks, 440-7377. Sorry, I've been reading again, and I've been ignoring the phone line, so I realized I missed a couple calls. 440-7377. It's now 9 o'clock. You know what, boy? Let me play a zingo while I take some. I might have to step away and get some water. You know?
So much people complaining about the government. I wonder why they're complaining when it's only 1 year they spent. They come in and complain to me, which I find strange, because the majority voted for change. So then I start to wonder, what is some of them seen? Why complain to this fella when they know my color is green? It seems like they don't have patience. That's the reason why. Or something pricking the conscience. They just cannot satisfy. Don't blame me. Don't complain to me. Why complain to me? Change you wanting to see. 13 years we in power. You was in opposition. You won with your propaganda. I really thought you had a plan. You appeal to them old people whose promise in the head. If they only vote for you, pension will be 400. So much seniors they turn out to give you their support. Right now some of them hand to mouth because you lock the throat. $50 you increase, that's not what you promise. And if they have children overseas, you remove the name from the list. Don't blame me, don't complain to me. Why complain to me? Change you wanted to see. Oh, don't blame me, don't complain to me. Why complain to me? Change you wanted to see. Don't blame me, don't complain to me. Why
Hey, let me say a special good night to you, Zingo. And to Kathy. Let me say a special good night, Kathy and Zingo. Bernadette, all our listeners out there in North America, saying a special good night to each and every one of you.
If they only give you a chance, you'll do some improving. You went out to them, Imani, and make them understand. If they vote for NDC, you giving them a grand. Now you from the government, you bring youth empowerment. All who were getting 700 right now, they're getting a cent. 7 months now they gone home, you leaving them to roam. It seems like the grand you promised them is grandchildren they bring it home. Don't blame me, don't complain to me. Why complain to me?
And you know, just a quick aside too. I've been hearing from the caregivers, those people working under the caregiver program, that they are now they've now been told, and let me take this call quickly. Good night.
Hey, good night, Mr. Scott. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Season greetings, man. I do fine as Dandy Wine, man.
Yeah, man. Seasoning greetings to you too, man.
Yeah, and the whole of Grenada and everybody and all the NP folks, you know, all the MPs, especially to Mrs. Peters, Kate Lewis Peters, you know. Yeah, all the ladies of the NP. Yeah. Back to the meat of the matter right now, right? You laid a little issue of all the do's and don'ts and the have-nots and the haves, right? You hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Go right ahead, man. I just muted
right,
so you could go ahead. Yeah.
There is a white elephant in the room that I want to talk about. This little thing, it must respond to no, but this little thing I see going on social media. And like I don't see, me and you and people in the group, we know what social media and what social media can do and the power of social media and what it can create and what you can decipher from social media. Right? And I will tell people, documents can be forged. There's a thing called Photoshop, right? There's a thing called printing. There's a thing called diversification of information. And when you see something online, if you see 100% things on the internet, 99% probably is true and 1% is fake. Right? So, with that being said, the 1% might be a probability. It can never be real, but put that in mind that it does happen. Don't fall for stupidity and nonsense, right? To the budget now. I find the budget also, the rebuttal, everything was well in place. Everybody do their part. And at the end of the day, Grenada won because the Prime Minister talk, former Prime Minister talk, everybody got a chance to speak. I want to hear the senators in the upper house now. Let's hear their debate and let's see what's going on. And let's go together and let's do the thing. But in the meantime, this is Christmas time. Next year, we'll come back and do that again. So, Shalom, you and the guys have a good Christmas and we'll chat.
All right, brother. You have a good night.
Yeah, man.
All right. Now, the caller was just speaking about some documents that's circulating, speaking about monies that were given. And let me say something here. Those documents have been circulated in such a way as to create a bias in the minds of all Grenadians. If a legal case has to come out of that, a bias has already been created in the mind of every single Grenadian by what has been done there. The Prime Minister said that how a cabinet conclusion exists. He has the cabinet conclusion that says $290,000 has to be paid for some diplomatic passport and all sorts of nonsense. That's what he said. He said you have a cabinet conclusion saying that. Then he says money was paid to the NNP South St. George account, and now he has gone even further and released documents saying, well, these are the documents in relation to the... No. Let me say this. Whether the documents are real, whether the documents are fake, I don't know. Yeah? Whether the documents are real or whether they are fake, I don't know. What I could say is this, that even if they were real, political parties receive donations. All you remember that? Political parties receive donations. In fact, let me put something up for you all to see now. Let me get something up on the screen for you all. You all remember that? You all remember this document? You see, I keep saying to you all, you have to talk to the younger ones. You must talk to the younger ones. Because this document dates back to the year 2012, June of 2012. This document was when Mr. Tillman Thomas, who was then the Prime Minister of Grenada, received a campaign donation. To this day, we as Grenadians don't know who gave the donation. The donation was of the amount $134,377.53. It ended up on his account number 127001114. It was given in US currency to the tune of $49,993.50. It says on the declaration, contribution to the National Democratic Congress from, and then they black out the name of the individual who gave that money as a campaign donation to the National Democratic Congress. All you remember that? All you remember that? That money was placed directly on the personal account of Mr. Tillman Thomas. Not the party account, It was passed over to the party afterwards from all indications. But that money was given to Mr. Tillman Thomas as the political leader of the National Democratic Congress as a party contribution, a contribution to the party. We as Grenadians, to this day, the 12th day of the 12th month, 2022, to this day, 10 years and how many months later, still do not know if there was anything attached to that. I am not saying there was, but I don't know that there wasn't. Because we do not know the name of the individual that gave that money to the NDC. Yeah? Because Mr. Tillman Thomas himself said, let me play it for you. What he said in relation to campaign financing and so, because even if it was real, even if the documents are real and the New National Party receive a donation, so you're telling me that the NDC, who admitted to being broke at their last convention, and we have the audio, they didn't want to say the amount of money, but they was in debt, find all this money to do the campaign that they did, that they were able to do t-shirts and do banners and do posters that up to now they still can't take down, do all of this thing, and that they didn't get donations from anybody? Is Mr. Deacon Mitchell, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, Member of Parliament for St. David, is he going to say to us that his political organization did not receive any donation of significant amounts from outside of Grenada? that is bake sale and selling little drinks with little bar and thing here and there, having little cake sale and thing, raffling goat, that is how they make the money to campaign, that is where you go tell you and you will believe? We have an instance of Mr. Tillman Thomas as sitting Prime Minister and head of the NDC that received a donation. But it's okay for him to receive donation, but it seems to be a problem if any other political party receives a donation. So what? Are they trying to convince us? The problem here is not the donation, you know. It is the accusation that there is a cabinet conclusion that gives the impression that some sort of corrupt act took place. So the Honorable Prime Minister could go ahead, give the FIU, give the DPP, give the police, give everybody. You could even give the Martians and all if they pass through. Give everybody the receipts. That proves nothing. And to anybody with a modicum of common sense, who understands what I'm saying here, political parties receive donations. Ain't it?
Now to an accusation that's been thrown at you, $150,000 and so forth. Again, is this baseless?
Well, you see, people making accusations from time to time. You know, any political organization would get contribution.
Okay.
And all the transaction I have done, above board, any transaction I've done legitimately through a banking institution, or there's nothing to hide.
So there's no red flag?
There's no red flag. No, if anybody has any evidence that anything is, the law has been broken, anything is out of the way, they could go to the FIU or go to any agency that is involved and ask them to conduct an investigation.
Well, your party would not have been the first party to receive any contribution, because
no, that's a normal. The only I say the difference may be that what a contribution came through a banking institution. I see nothing wrong with that. That, you know, that if somebody gives a contribution, I see nothing. You know, once it comes from a legitimate source, and it's for the use of the. That's part of the democratic process. I mean, all.
But you're certainly not the first big above.
No, that
Stanford, 700 and something.
Yeah, that's it. And some of it doesn't come through any banking institution at all. I mean, of course, we had nothing to hide. That if somebody wants to make a contribution to a political organization and make it through an individual within the organization, a trustworthy individual, I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So this is one thing. You are clean.
Yeah, I have nothing to worry about that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was Mr. Tillman Thomas. That is not one of us talking. That is Mr. Tillman Thomas who's saying nothing is wrong with, and that's the thing, nothing is wrong with political parties receiving donations. I have been engaged with political parties from the Turks and Caicos right down to Trinidad and Tobago. And all political parties, at least political parties that worth something, they get donations from individuals and entities outside of their country. So it is nothing wrong with a political party receiving a donation. So says Tillman Thomas. And that was from the 25th of, the 25th of May? Yeah, the 25th of May, 2012. You see why I say it's important to tell the children, because remember, somebody who's 18 years old now, who may have been 18 in time to vote for this election, they were 8 years old when this took place. So when you hear the Prime Minister and them spreading this stuff, come with the cabinet conclusion. Come with the cabinet conclusion that you claim there is for 200, and don't come with any, because there is, you're a lawyer. You know when you utter forged documents, that's a charge, yeah? Yeah, you know fake documents, and so there are charges to those things. Because if you're claiming a crime took place here, if you are claiming that a crime took place because somebody made a donation to a political organization, then we might have to revisit the year 2012. Because we don't have campaign financing laws here in Grenada. I think Barbados has something. I think that's the only country I could think of in the Caribbean that has something in relation to campaign financing. But we don't have campaign financing laws here in Grenada that restricts you in any way. If what the Prime Minister is saying is that he would like to have campaign financing laws put in place, that is a separate discussion. Let's have that discussion. But in the same way that the NDC receive money from donation outside of Grenada, the NDC, and the document is there, we show you a while ago, and I'm going to post it on the Talking Points page as a reminder to those of you who are old enough to remember. That's why I keep saying, speak to the younger ones. They were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. The first time voters for this election. They were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 when this took place. So they don't know about that. They hear a political party may have gotten some money right now and they believe that some sort of corruption took place. Because that is that's the audience they're going after, you know. They're going after the young ones who may not know about this kind of thing. Who did not hear what I played for you a short. Let me play it again, man. I think you all need to hear Brother Tillman Thomas speaking about political parties receiving finances. Again, I think you all need to hear about from Brother Tillman, man. Let me play it again for you all.
An accusation that's been thrown at you, $150,000 and so forth. Again, is this baseless?
Well, you see, people making accusations from time to time. You know, any political organization would get contribution.
Okay.
And all the transaction I have done, above board, any transaction I've done legitimately through a banking institution, or there's nothing to hide.
So there's no red flag?
There's no red flag. No, if anybody has any evidence that anything is, the law has been broken, anything is out of the way, they could go to the FIU or go to any agency that is involved and ask them to conduct an investigation.
Well, your party would not have been the first party to receive any contribution because
no, that's normal. The only I say the difference may be that what a contribution came through a banking institution. I see nothing wrong with that. That if somebody gives you a contribution, I see nothing. Once it comes from a legitimate source, and it's for the use of that's part of the democratic process. I mean,
but you're certainly not the first big above.
That's
Stanford, 700 and something.
Yeah, that's it. And some of it doesn't come through any banking institution at all. I mean, of course, we had nothing to hide. At least somebody wants to make a contribution to a political organization and make it true an individual within the organization, a trustworthy individual. I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So this is one thing. You are clean.
Yeah, I have nothing to worry about that.
You have nothing to worry about.
No.
Whatever information would be, I suppose, you would make it available if they ask you for.
Yeah, if there's information, yes, it could be made available at any time.
So this is thoughtless for you, right?
Yeah, so you have heard him. You've heard the former Prime Minister, Mr. Tillman Thomas, speaking. That is when he received that, as he called it, campaign donation not into the NDC account. It went into his own personal account. Then afterwards, apparently it was given to the NDC, dispersed to the NDC to do what was necessary, but it went to his personal account. But they're trying to give the impression like this is the first time something like this happened in Grenada, and woe beyond, and the NNP wicked, and the NNP this, and the NNP that, because they're trying to create a narrative in your mind. And I see someone asking, why is the man asking back for his money? What money is he asking back for? He's asking back for his $150,000 paid to the government of Grenada. And I saw what they did. They put out a video with Dr. Mitchell, and then they put the receipts at the side. And they put the receipt to the government of Grenada at the side there too. The alleged receipt to the government of Grenada, they put it there too. Right? To give the impression that Dr. Mitchell received all this money. That's what they've been doing, because in 2022, we grab and run with information. It's not a situation where everybody sits down and thinks through things. You glance something on the internet, you see Dr. Mitchell, you see that set of money, that set of money, that set of money. Immediately, the mind of that individual believes this is money that Dr. Mitchell get. Yeah? But the key thing here is that the Prime Minister alleges that there is a cabinet conclusion. I realized when he was speaking in Parliament, all of a sudden the issue of the cabinet conclusion was not brought up. Yeah? The issue of the cabinet conclusion was not brought up, and I'm just queuing up something there to play now. Yeah? Because the issue of the cabinet conclusion, all of a sudden, is not being discussed. You're talking about receipts. Receipts don't prove anything except that money may have gone to an account. If the receipts are real, one, and two, that money went to the account in the same way that money went into Mr. Tillman Thomas' account as a donation from a man that we don't know. Well, we don't know if it's a man for sure. We don't know if it's a man. We don't know if it's a woman. We don't know if it's somebody that commits some war crime somewhere. We don't know. We don't know if the person had belonged to ISIS or Al-Qaeda. We don't know. We don't know if the person is an international gun runner, if they're a drug runner. We do not know. We knows nothing about who has donated to the NDC before. At least we know this person is Polish. At least that is what they say. That is the story so far. All of this is to distract you from the holes that were punched into the budget last week, you know. All of this is to distract you from the licking that they got in the Parliament last week. Come with the cabinet conclusion. If you're sending something to the FIU and you're sending something to the DPP and so on, to say that a political party received money and through a bank, and you hear Mr. Tillman Thomas is okay if they receive it through a bank and that kind of thing. That is one thing. But if you're claiming that a crime took place, that there's a cabinet conclusion talking about 290,000, put that out for the public. And make sure what you put out is real. Make sure it's not fake. Because under the Citizenship by Investment program over the years, it has always been a case that people have paid 150,000. That was the payment that they make over the years. Right? And some of that same money goes into the, remember I told you about the technical fund earlier? Some of that money goes into the technical fund. Alright? And let me just queue up something here because I want you to go back to what was said about the Polish man and that there's a cabinet conclusion. I want us to go back to that. So let me see if I could just queue up something here. Let me get that in place. So let me just put on something here for you while I get that clip in place. Nice. I just want to queue up the one with the Polish that speaks to the Polish man. Let me just get that. Oh boy, you know when you have to multitask how it goes.
Politics.
A gentleman of Polish origin applied apparently to be made ambassador at large on behalf of the citizens of Grenada. That gentleman was told, and it appears that the then cabinet, agreed to appoint the gentleman as ambassador at large. He was told that in order to do so, he needed to pay US $290,000 to the state of Grenada. $150,000 was paid to the state of Grenada, and there's a treasury receipt for it. Another $140,000 was paid to the New National Party South St. George office. Let me repeat that. $140,000 was paid, and this is in June of 2022, right before the elections. $140,000 paid to the New National Party South St. George office. We have the records. So since the cabinet conclusion said it was $290,000 to the state of Grenada, last time I checked, the Constitution does not establish the New National Party South St. George office as part of the state of Grenada. So my free advice now is that the New National Party South St. George office, or the New National Party for that matter, should kindly hand over to the state of Grenada the $140,000 that magically found its way into your bank account. Now, I don't know who advised the Polish gentleman, but as a good colleague of mine said, this must have been Wagiti Bingo. And you clearly gambled and lost. The gentleman has been asking back for his money. The state of Grenada has no intention of paying back any money to anybody. But I also want to point out and give some free advice to the South St. George branch of the New National Party that you might have to pay back the man his money. But that is free advice. You could take it or leave it. Now, I'm making this point to say this is essentially trading in diplomacy. Making this point to say.
Yes, folks. So you've heard it there. The Prime Minister says that there's a cabinet conclusion that speaks to $290,000. Now, here's what. If he can provide an actual cabinet conclusion to that and prove that some sort of wrong thing took place, that's one thing. But he circulated the receipts. Where's the cabinet conclusion? That is what Dr. Mitchell asked for. And that is what he continues to ask for. Because Dr. Mitchell, remember, was the chairman of cabinet. In other words, as the Prime Minister, he sat at the head table. He was the chairperson of cabinet. And as such, all the cabinet conclusions, he would know what's contained in the cabinet conclusions. A cabinet conclusion is basically a document that comes about after you finish your discussions and you've made your final decision. A document is put together that says this is the final decision of cabinet on that. That's the conclusion. It's an actual document. So he's speaking about receipts out there and receipts for this and that. Number one, how did you get receipts? That's the first thing. Because there's a lot of talk out there about banking institutions now, and some people afraid now to deal with certain banks because they are afraid now that the information could just reach out into the public. So the first thing is, how did that information reach out into the general public in the first instance? The second instance is this. Is the information real or not real? He said the man has asked back for his money, but the state of Grenada is not going to pay back anybody any money. So in other words, the money that he's asking back for is the money that he has paid to the state of Grenada. Because I saw someone asking that question earlier. What money he asking back for? Why is he asking back for his money? He's asking back for his money from the state of Grenada. Because if you have applied and you ain't get through, the government changed, the next set of people decide that no, we're not going to utilize you, because this thing about selling passports and all this kind of thing. And remember, the person who's saying this was a passport agent. Yeah, they had a company that was involved. If you pass, you still see it up on the wall of the company. Involved in citizenship by investment. And at least 2 other members of their team, one in cabinet and one as an advisor there, were involved in the citizenship by investment program. They ain't going to tell you how much money they make from it. They ain't going to tell you if any of the people that they have in the citizenship by investment program, they would not tell you if any of those people made a contribution towards the campaign of the National Democratic Congress. Who are the people? If you want to be open and transparent and you have nothing to hide, who are the people that funded the campaign of the National Democratic Congress? Did that money that came in, I ain't asking if it come in, did that money that came in come through the normal banking sector, or did it travel into Grenada by other means? that was used to finance the campaign of the National Democratic Congress. The same party who at a convention just a few months before was saying that they broke, that they don't have money. And they're afraid to talk because they never know how much money people could talk and think. Yeah? So we're going to open the phone lines. 440-7377. That's 440-7377. And 347-329-3101. Because it seems as though some people just forget. And that's why I keep telling you, talk to the younger ones. Those first-time voters who are 18, 19, 20, and 21 right now. They were 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 10 years ago. So you think they know about Mr. Tillman Thomas and what he said about political parties is okay for political parties to receive funds? Because to this day, the only person that seems to know who sent that money is Mr. Tillman Thomas and maybe one or two other close people to him. Because at that time, even people who were then in the NDC were telling you they didn't know about that. They know who sent it, they don't know. They just hear anything. Because the initial talk was 150,000 US to the NDC back then from a Saudi Arabian investor. While they said that didn't take place, they did admit to 50,000 from somebody through the BVI. Well, 4,900 and whatever. Through the BVI. Yeah? So that is what we need to... Let's take this phone call. I believe a call is coming through. Good night.
Hey, Brother Sheldon.
Hi, good night.
Good night to you, my brother. How are you?
I'm fine, bro. I'm fine. You go right ahead.
Wonderful. Yeah, you know what? Thinking about this, the many names, right, that are persons that is involved in the different, what you may say, boards and so on. Do you know that my observation lately, some of those names came about during the campaign?
Well, no, these are plainly people that are either on the national executive or constituency executives of the NDC. There are one or two who you may not see on an executive or so on, but who you know are aligned to the NDC.
Right. And you know the other thing that is kind of disturbing too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is the makeshift kind of love spirit that exists among these people. They act like they really love you, But guess what? Not until they know who you really support. And we in a Christian society is stated all the time. But I wonder if these people really understand what real love is. Disrespect continue to exist at the highest level. The Fiscal Discipline Act that Grenada had signed on to some years ago by the IMF,
Mm-hmm.
It's violated completely. Total violation of that law. So my question is, are we operating a different type of government?
Well, let me say this. The Fiscal Responsibility Act was set aside during COVID, but has been reenacted. And if the government continues along the path that it's going in relation to the volume of contracts, etc., it wants to give, we are going to end up in the danger zone when it comes to our debt to GDP, to our debt ratio. Yeah, it's just slipping me right now the exact terminology, but we're going to end up in trouble. And that would mean that we're not able to access financing from international agencies and organizations, and we would be in financial trouble. So you have to be careful. There has to be a delicate balance taking place.
Yes. And the other thing is that the social life, the socio-economic life of the people in our country, is really on the downward trend,
Mm-hmm.
People are balling out. I'm hearing people crying out. There were some projects done in St. David's just, under the previous government. And it was just this morning somebody brought to my attention that the payment hadn't been done for one particular one for certain until up to this morning. I'm not too sure about the one at Mount Tranquil, you know. But I am not feeling happy or feeling good about what I'm seeing going on in our country, you know, because the people are continue to be in poverty, you know, and these are some things that they campaign on and better life for the people. And there are those who are saying that the government just came into office, give them a chance. But if you really check on the policies of this government, what they are doing, it is absolutely contrary to what the former government under the NNP party had been doing. Totally out of context. You know, like the demotion, for example. The demotion. We only had 2 fortnights, you know. So the disposable income of the people in our country is depleted. So people might start begging, you know, if they are not doing it yet. There are uncontrolled deaths taking place at our general hospital. You know, people are going to do surgery, and it's alleged that things are remaining, you know, elements that they use, you know, like the gauze, cloth, and so on, are remaining in people's body, you know, being infected. That is under this administration. This is going on now, you know. Watch me, over 600 and counting persons have lost their job in Grenada. You know, my question is, what did the budget state concerning the wardens, both traffic wardens and the environmental warden? Is there any allocation of financing for them?
What I
So
thought,
we should know what's going on next.
what I thought was that the ministers responsible for those areas would have delved into it, but instead they took the time to try and attack the NNP.
Oh, that's
I
true.
thought they would have taken the time with the budget presentation to speak about what are some of the plans, so that the people who are worrying out there, like those who are getting close to the end of the contract, because while you have people like Ian Django Thomas getting a contract for a 4,500 plus 412 in traveling and 50% concession on a vehicle, 25 days holiday, 2-year contract, while people like him are getting contracts, you have the poor and vulnerable traffic wardens and so on wondering if they're going to be working next year. You have police officers wondering when they're going to get an upgrade and they rank and so.
Right, the pay and grade thing for the police officers also. I mean, come on, that was listen.
Well,
I am disappointed. I'm really disappointed with what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, because I'm listening to the media all the time. You know, so we have to listen. And I believe that there are those who want to try to muzzle people who are vocal in our country.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, you know they're coming after me, and I ain't care. Let it come. They're coming after me, and I ain't care. The bottom line is people have to know what's going on.
But why are they coming after you?
Well, listen, because people say
speaking truth.
No, they're saying give them a chance, give them a chance. This is not lotto. This is not lotto. Lotto selling tomorrow Super 6 drawing. Go and buy one of that. This ain't lotto. This is running the country. Right? Wagiti does have bingo and all kind of thing. Go and take a chance in that. This is not lotto. This is not Wagiti bingo. This is running a country. So some people only they give them a chance, give them a chance, give them a chance. What happened? They're running a raffle? All right, my brother. And you have an activity coming up, isn't it?
Yes, that's on Sunday at the Trade Center.
It's taking place at the Trade Center. Tell the people a little bit quickly about that one.
Right, so it's at the Western Music Academy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's Pastor speaking.
Yeah.
The Western Music Academy putting on a concert, that's from 6 o'clock, $45 at the door ticket for adults, $20 for children.
Mm-hmm.
That proceeds in aid of finishing the music school.
All right. And these are young people that play music, and so not 45 to 65 years of age as the advisors and them. These young people.
You know what? I'm training some seniors too. I'm
All
training
right.
some senior guys too. Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah,
So
because they don't feel old. They don't feel old because they feel youthful, you know?
So the Western Hall Music Academy, that's taking place this Sunday, and it will
Yes.
be at the Grenada Trade Center, starting time 6 p.m.
Yes, 6 p.m.
Okay. Once
Right,
I'm free, you'll see me there.
Right. So, guys, that's me talking, you know. I'm not hiding myself. Me, Captain, that's me, yes.
All right, sir.
Yes, have a good night, brother.
Same to you.
Wonderful.
All right. Folks, 4407377. That's 4407377. And hey, the NNP St. Patrick branch, St. Patrick West branch, they're having their Christmas Jamboree that's taking place down in the Quasi in Sautez. That's going to be taking place this Friday. And it starts at 10 a.m. and it goes for the entire day into the night from 10 a.m. right up until about 11, 12 in the night. They have music, they have bar, they have food. You could bring out the kids. Don't miss it. So that's down in the Quasi, right, in Sautez, and that's the NNP St. Patrick West branch. They're inviting you to their Christmas Jamboree. So I'm going to remind you tomorrow, and I'm going to remind you the night after that, and remind you the night after that. All right, nice. So I'm going to remind you, but yeah, I am wondering how all of a sudden, because for a political party that was basically broke, yeah, a political party that was basically broke. Let me see if I could find it. I had to find, you know, yeah, let me see. I think this is it here. Yes, I think that is the thing there. Let me see if I could find out what was the financial situation with the NDC prior to the general election. Let's hear what was being said at their convention by Mr. Glenn Noel. Let me see what Mr. Glenn Noel had to say at the convention in relation to NDC and if they had money to go into the campaign.
Now, the issue of adequate financial resources. Remember, I'm doing this report in the context of the party's strategic plan, and these are the areas we set out as our priorities. And we're looking at where we are, how we look towards them. Now, this is not an area that we have done pretty well. We have set out an operational budget of just over $180-something thousand annually. We have also set out what we consider is the figure that we need for an election as it relates to between $3.5 to $4 million. And we have also identified what our national debt is for the sake of confidentiality, because anybody could penetrate sometime in the system. I don't want to call it out loud. But what I would say, what we have been doing is merely surviving.
Yeah, that was the NDC speaking at the same day that Mr. Deacon Mitchell became the political leader of the NDC just last year. In other words, Glenn was saying the party broke. The same party that put up all them billboard every turn yet pass in Grenada, them billboard that cost how much $1,000 for one, put up all the banners on them that cost hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars for one, that was able to bring in thousands of t-shirts that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And then pay for all the rallies and the transportation, hundreds of thousands of dollars into a couple $1 million. Tell me that you, Mr. Deacon Mitchell, and the NDC raised that money through raffling goat and selling cake. Tell me that you raised that money like that. Let's talk campaign financing, because it have names in relation to the NDC and funding that some of us could call. And they ain't Grenadian. Yeah, they ain't Grenadian. There are names that some of us could call. Don't worry, the time gonna come. The time will come. Yeah? Not me that open that door. You open that door. Because you're looking for a distraction in relation to the budget. And let me tell you all, folks, we're not going to get too distracted from the budget, because we have to discuss some stuff later this week. So on one of these nights, we're going to have a guest in with us via Zoom, and we'll be discussing different aspects of the budget. I won't tell you the guest is now, but on the morning that we're going to have the guest in, I'm going to tell you from the morning so that you know for the entire day. Tune in the night. That is the guest. On Wednesday, definitely, we will be having a guest via Zoom in with us on the program. All right? And we're going to be discussing budget 2023, different aspects of the budget and so on. Right? We know that they have the loan authorization bill. And as I said to you last week, every time you have a budget, to fund part of the budget, you may need, not all the time, but you may need, if you fall short somewhere, to take a loan. So the authorization for this budget of $1.3 billion is $350 million. All right? So that is what they have there in place in case they need to borrow, and most likely they will have to borrow anyhow, borrow money to fund the budget. All right? But then we ask ourselves, look, Django get 50% concession in relation to a vehicle. I wonder, since he's an advisor, if that is the same situation with all of the others as advisors. Did all the advisors get a 50% concession, duty-free concession on a vehicle? Did all of them get that? Yeah? We really want to know. But folks, before I go any further, let me tell you the Sunset City Christmas Fiesta that's taking place this Thursday from 5 p.m. Diamond Street in Victoria. Yeah, Sunset City, St. Mark. They have loads of fun activities and giveaways. They have a Christmas concert, bouncing castle. That thing small, but I could barely see that. You can see his glasses are wearing. Yeah, bouncing castle for the kids. Fun competitions, pan music, eats and drinks, loads of Christmas treats. All right, and that's hosted by the St. Mark Parliamentary Constituency Office. They're going to have Tamara St. Bernard, Jonathan Francis, Dennis Andrews, that's Lion Paul, Laura Lisa, the Apollo Band, Vaughn, Crave, Corona, and many more performances by persons within the constituency of St. Mark. They have karaoke from 6 until 8. So St. Mark is the place to be this Thursday from 5 p.m. That activity, the Sunset City Christmas Fiesta, that's being put on by the St. Mark Parliamentary Office. All right, so we look forward to seeing that one. All you find, listen, what really going on this year? Usually with NNP and thing. By now, and all you saw a little Christmas tree lighting and thing. I know all now in Guelph, we don't light the Christmas tree up by the gas station there, and you have a little Christmas tree lighting and toys and thing given out in different areas and so on, little treat and thing, you know, all over St. Patrick's, St. Andrew, all over. We look at thing. What happened? Them MPs hiding? I ain't finding here. 4407377. I find them MPs and them hiding. Yeah. Not the New National Party MP. No, them the other side. They in power right now. If it was an NP, you know, right now, Christmas tree lighting, lap and cut all over the place. You could have drive around the country and a short later NNP Christmas tree lighting every part of the country and them kind of thing. Ain't it? But I know Christmas tree lighting, I know what going on. So Rondo lighting and look a Christmas tree and will they nothing? What do all you fellas are? Not a little Christmas tree, get them children a one or two little piece of toy. You understand? Even if it's a little drinks and thing or something you have, you know, all the fellas moving so. Yeah. I find them fellas and them moving funny, man. I find since they drink that transformation water, they ain't too right, you know, yeah. Since they drink that transformation water, them boy and them ain't right at all.
Promise one public service. Everybody will be made permanent. Nobody going home. Take Susu in you. I don't believe in superstition. Something wrong with that transformation.
Yeah, Mr. Deacon Mitchell, let's speak about campaign financing. Let's see if you and your political organization do have to go in front of the DPP, FIU, and Integrity Commission as well. At least when the political leader of the new National Party went in front of the Integrity Commission and made his deposition as to his wealth, he came out to us and he said exactly how much money he have. Up to now, Grenadians don't know if you have halfpenny or if you have millions of halfpenny. They don't know if you have half plenty. We don't know. Because you, who are so transparent, have not come out to the Grenadian people and said to us that, hey, I have X amount of money. And I hope, because I think the 2-week mark about to end, I hope that the rest of your MPs don't ask for more time and they bring in their declaration to the Integrity Commission. I hope it is not a situation, as I am hearing alleged out there, that some of them didn't have nothing. So right now they're trying to see as much as they could grab to come and announce. Remember, the law. Read that integrity in public life legislation carefully. Because some of them could find themselves in the calaboose if they don't declare what they have. And I'm telling all this straight up, I will be the one that go to the Integrity Commission and report all you if all you ain't report certain thing. Serious. I will go and report all you.
The transformation water, from the time they drink the water, like they put a spell on Grenada, they rank the
Will be the race to the calaboose.
transformation water, from the time they drink the water, they start to reverse Grenada.
So I see the circulating documents and people they about first of all they put Dr. Mitchell and then they come and they put the receipts next to him to make it look like Dr. Mitchell. Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell did not receive those monies. He did not. That is clear. The accusation of a cabinet conclusion in the figure 290,000 that you heard from the Prime Minister, the present Prime Minister, again, we are saying it is untrue. It is false. It is not true. And for them to be able to present anything, for them to put out anything saying otherwise, has to be a forged document. And there are legal consequences, as I know our learned friend, the Honorable Prime Minister, would very well know. There are legal consequences to uttering forged documents and presenting forged documents, especially to agencies like the FIU. Yeah? So there are consequences to those things. So you may understand, my good friends, why they ain't talking about that. Why you heard him speaking earlier about cabinet conclusion and so. You realize in Parliament when he was speaking, he never mentioned anything about cabinet conclusion. Let me see if I could find that one. When he was speaking in Parliament about sending files and all this thing, he had nothing about that there. He ain't talk about that one. You understand? Yeah, let me see if I find the one here. Let me see about the file being sent to the Integrity Commission. Yeah, let me see if I could get that and get it queue up. Give me a minute there, let me queue up that one.
I read that one on social media about a certain political leader.
Just make sure I get the day, get this one. No, let me see if I could get it nice.
You promise one public service. Everybody will be made permanent. Nobody going home. Take swing you. I don't believe in superstition. Something wrong with the transformation. From the 10 boys drink the water. Strange thing happening in Grenada. 3 houses born in Victoria. 2 born in St. David soon after. David Anderson and his brother. We had suicide and murder. Who tell them drink the water? The transformation water. From the time they drink the water, like they put a spell on Grenada. They rank to drink the water. The transformation water. From the time they drink the water, they start to reverse Grenada.
Just making sure I get the right file to play. Because I realize all of a sudden they talk about the cabinet conclusion disappear.
But recently then I remember he drank the transformation water. And when I listen to the AG, if they do wicked, well they crazy. If you don't support the agenda, they treat you like fish out of water. Who tell them drink the water? The transformation water. From the time they drink the water.
Alright, so let me play that one for you starting now.
But I also want to make it clear, Mr. Speaker, that I will not stand here and have suggestions made that when I speak to the nation, I'm intentionally lying or misleading the public. So when I said that to our Mr. Speaker, and it pains me that I have to address this issue, but I'm going to address it, that $140,000 was sent to the NNP South St. George constituency office by the same gentleman who paid $150,000 to the government of Grenada on condition that he was made an ambassador at large. Mr. Speaker, I did not make this up. And since the Honorable Leader of His Majesty Opposition is suggesting, based on his remarks made in this Honorable House, that I'm making it up, I will release the receipts that shows that $140,000 was paid to the NNP South St. George office. Bank account. I don't know who controls the bank account, it's not my interest. The receipts will be sent to the Integrity Commission. They will be sent to the FIU. These are the bodies and the police. These are the bodies who are charged to investigate.
What law is being breached by political parties receiving a donation if indeed the NNP South St. George did receive a donation? What law is being broken? Because if it's been broken by the NNP, definitely it's been broken by the NDC, and we had to ask Mr. Tillman Thomas some questions. Yeah? But did you hear him say anything about cabinet conclusion? You realize all of a sudden the cabinet conclusion talk dropped? You realize he ain't saying anything. He sent the receipts. He didn't say I sent the receipts and the cabinet conclusion. I sent the receipts. So they put out the receipts there and everybody sharing the receipts and, oh God, look at money. Oh God, look at money. And you all forget. You all forget what happened with Mr. Tillman Thomas in 2012. You all could forget that. Again, I will excuse anybody that's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, even 23, 24, and 25. I'd excuse them. Because at that age, between the ages of 18 to 15, 16, they're studying politics. That cannot, even if the parents talking about it, they're studying it. But when we don't explain to them as new voters the hoodwink that's being attempted by the present PM and the NDC administration in relation to this issue to shift attention away from the failures of their budget. Yeah? The many failures of their budget. And as I said, because they don't want us to speak about it, because they want us to ignore that, is why I'm going to make sure that on Wednesday, we're going to have someone in with us on the program via Zoom to discuss budget 2023. Somebody who understands about budget and economics and that sort of thing, where we'll be able to ask questions and pose questions and that sort of thing. And let me just go to the phone line. Good night. Hello, good night.
Hello, good night. I'm trying to get on to Sheldon.
You're on, you're live.
All right. Sheldon,
yeah.
Let me tell you, you just play a clip there. And the Honorable Prime Minister of our country is making statements that he is going to send the clip or the information to the FIU who is going to do the investigation.
Nothing wrong with that. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I'm not
Nobody's
saying
ready.
anything wrong with that, but I'm saying before you come out, as a prime minister, I'm talking about the leader of Grenada, Carriacou, and Peter Matnick. Before you come and make this wild accusation or wild statements, what the first thing you need to do is to get the FIU and the investigating body and put the information in their hand and say, I want you to carry out an investigation towards this particular individual and the particular dealings with this individual or the particular government. So you can make an arrest or lockup as it is. But you come out and making wild gestures and saying, you have the cabinet conclusion and of $140,000 and $150,000 with US dollars, which is equivalent to $290,000. But he cannot even put forward the cabinet conclusion. I don't want to even talk about that. I want to say to the Prime Minister of our country, he must not make statements to justify the problems that exist within his organization or his party or his government. Because there is a lot of accusations, and I'm saying by the layman on the street, that has a lot of check bouncing, and a minister of his government is not yet able to correct. I'm saying correct, my words, to correct that kind of information. But he's still attempting to attack the other side of the new National Party with his all alluded statements to hide behind what is happening within his government.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the Prime Minister, Grenada is no dunce. The people in this country is not dunce as before, because the revolution has sent them to study. The new National Party has sent them to study, and he has not yet sent one to study. I am saying to him, be careful with the statements
All right.
that he's making.
Okay, caller.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And folks, we are out at time. Let me just make sure I'm clear tonight. But here's what, before I go. This is Mr. Tillman Thomas on the 22nd of May, 2012, speaking on that same issue of the money in the account.
Yeah, NP has information that they feel that there's something needs to be investigated. They could go and make a report to the FIU, and the FIU could conduct an investigation. But it is usual that officials in political parties receive contribution and donation for the organization. All political parties, I believe, will get contribution or donation. So I don't know what really is the basis of the allegation. Well, I haven't received any money from Saudi Arabia myself. I'm not aware of any money being received from Saudi Arabia. I believe it is more mischief. I think the NMP has been tainted with wrongdoing. So they want to bring all politicians within that category. I think that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to confuse the Grenadian people to make it appear that all of us as politicians are involved in wrongdoing. But I don't think that would succeed.
Yeah, so says Mr. Tillman Thomas. We have a caller. It's our program. We're taking a little extra time. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, Shalom, good night, and good night to the listeners and the contributors to the program tonight.
All right.
The live. Big up yourself. Keep focused. I'm calling from overseas, and I would always admonish persons in Grenada to please read a little more. I want to admonish them to read a little more, and then they would not be tricked. What happened in the last election, a lot of them were being tricked, and they've been brainwashed, and being brainwashed is like a course, and it's kind of hard to get themselves out of it. It's like re-educating themselves again. So we have to feel pity for them, for a lot of persons who are on that kind of a bandwagon, because you see under some live the comments that they're making. Last week I talked about the bitterness that they have. We are a bitter and unforgiving people, and that's not going to take the nation forward. So persons who are listening, the young people who are listening, I want to admonish you. When you hear people talking and propaganda or gossip is being swung left, right, and center, please do not join in. Listen, do your research before you engage your mouth. As there's a saying, before you engage your mouth, engage your head. Think. That's a big word. That's a word that I want to leave with a lot of persons in Grenada. Stop believing the lies and the gossip. We for too long, we have been held back. We have been under like a curse, like the spirit of hindrances over this nation.
All right,
so please. All right, thank you.
You have a blessed one. Yeah, folks, it's our program. If we decide we're going along, we no radio station here to bother with us and say that we keeping them extra and all kind of things. So we're taking a few minutes extra. So, folks, remember what I played just now for you was Mr. Tillman Thomas from the 21st of May, 2012. You hear what he say? Nothing wrong with political parties receiving donation. Mr. Tillman Thomas, you better talk to Mr. Deacon Mitchell. Yeah, you better talk to him. Yeah, have a word with him. Remind him of when you had money for the NDC in your account. Yeah. I never say do nothing wrong. All I say is that, and we have the declaration document here still. Yeah. All I say is that 100 and something thousand EC ended up in your account. Isn't that so? That is the truth, isn't it? You issued the declaration, you put it out. I could remember as much as Mr. Finsley St. Louis went defending you. Sitting in his veranda, and the news crew came in there, and he said the first day that we'll release some information in the coming days. And then it was released, and the news crew went back, and he was saying, you see, same document. It's in the papers thing, same document. Yeah? Mr. Tillman Thomas, hear him again. 21st of May, 2012. Those first-time voters was 8 years old. You need to speak to the young people.
Yeah, NP has information that they feel that if something needs to be investigated, they could go and make a report to the FIU, and the FIU could conduct an investigation. But it is usual that officials in political parties receive contribution and donation for the organization. All political parties, I believe, will get contribution or donation. So I don't know what really the basis of the allegation. Well, I haven't received any money from Saudi Arabia myself. I'm not aware of any money being received from Saudi Arabia. I believe it is more mischief. I think the NMT has been tainted with wrongdoing. So they want to bring all politicians within that category. I think that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to confuse the Grenadian people to make it appear that all of us as politicians are involved in wrongdoing.
So here what Mr. Tillman Thomas actually saying that the NDC doing right now. They're trying to taint all politicians to make it look like all of the politicians corrupt. You know, yeah, that's Mr. Tillman Thomas talking there. And remember what he said on the 25th. That was him on the 21st of May. This was him on the 25th of May, 2012. Yeah, 10 years ago. There we hear.
An accusation that's been thrown at you, $150,000 and so forth. Again, is this baseless?
Well, you see, people making accusations from time to time. You know, any political organization would get contribution.
Okay.
And all the transaction I have done, above board, any transaction I've done legitimately through a banking institution, or there's nothing to hide.
So there's no red flag?
There's no red flag. No, if anybody has any evidence that anything is, the law has been broken, anything is out of the way, they could go to the FIU or go to any agency that is involved and ask them to conduct an investigation.
Well, your party would not have been the first party to receive any contribution, because
no, that's normal. The only I say the difference may be that what a contribution came through a banking institution. I see nothing wrong with that. That if somebody gives you a contribution, I see nothing. Once it comes from a legitimate source, and it's for the use of the that's part of the democratic process.
Now, my question here is, Mr. Tillman Thomas was saying if it's a legitimate source, but up to now, he never tell us who was the source, eh? Yeah, we in 2022, maybe he might come out now and say, maybe now he might come out and tell us who was the source. Go up to now. He said nothing wrong with political parties receiving money. Mr. Tillman Thomas, I wonder if them fellas listening to you. I wonder if they have any cabinet conclusion for $290,000. That is why they would never like me. Anyway, somebody talk about checks bouncing and all kind of thing. I mean, sometimes when you have a checking account, it happens from time to time. You may not do your calculation correct, and you may write a check, and it may come back. By which time you cover your check, you clear your thing. There have been situations other than that where you would have your check, you write a check, you post date it for a date when money's supposed to come in, which you should not do. And then you might have that situation as well. But then when you have a situation where check bouncing all over the place, then folks, we have to leave with a song like this. You all have a wonderful night wherever you are. Whatever you do, do it safe and secure. We want to be speaking to and with you and not about you. We're back from 8 p.m. tomorrow night with more talking points just for you. More clips and more information to share. Remember, I tell you, my name is Sheldon Scott. I am out of here. Love each and every one of you.